I guess maybe the counter argument that people may have is just like, well, like, Fortnite is still a really hard game that millions of people play. And it's just like you can't really compare team games to fighting games. It's like I see this kind of often that like there's this constant comparison is like what games like Call of Duty and like Dota do that Street Fighter doesn't. I'm like, you really cannot compare them.
What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the Anti-Oki Podcast, where we question the FGC's core values. This is Mr. Behavior, and he is Silos. What's going on, man?
What's going on, man? Really weird. I mean, we're gonna get into it. It's like,
it's been kind of a weird news.
Really weird news.
Over the past couple of weeks, there's been some developments in the FGC, and we want to kind of talk about maybe some of the implications about some of the more recent acquisitions of some of our most prestigious events. And I'm sure by now, if you're seeing this episode, most of you have heard that Sony, along with esports company RTS, has acquired EVO Evolution, the biggest tournament that we have in the fighting game community.
The tournament.
That is the tournament.
Every fighting game person looks forward to.
It's international, man.
Yeah, international all over the world.
And
now Sony is largely going to be in charge of it with RTS.
Right. So Sony Interactive Entertainment, which is the branch of Sony that runs like PlayStation. So it's like, it used to be called Sony Computer Entertainment back in the day. I think some of you guys probably remember like in the beginning of like some of those old PlayStation games, it would say like Sony Computer Entertainment. So that division of Sony now owns EVO, is part owner in EVO. And I don't think that this is necessarily a good thing for the fighting game community. And I think it's kind of more representative and symptomatic of like the fracturing of the fighting game community and esports, which, I think that's sort of the core message of like what we talk about on this podcast. Like, that's kind of like what the split is. It's the grassroots versus the people that want to be involved with the money, I guess.
Pretty much. It's a weird thing because it's like we want the FGC to grow, but like, is that possible without esports? I've kind of been thinking that the last few weeks. Like, is it kind of inevitable that big corporations are going to pretty much take control of how our events are ran? Like, is this like the inevitable thing that's going to happen? And like, if that's the case, like, sure, like we were kind of talking about before we started recording, like we could do our own things and start our own things, but just like, will it be limited because we're not submitting to these corporations who kind of take over eventually? It feels like it's going to happen pretty much everywhere. Like I pretty much see this happening with like I don't exactly know like how Combo Breaker is owned, like what that really has to do with Capcom or like with, is Sony going to try to acquire more events? Like is they're going to stop at EVO? Like probably not. Like probably Combo Breaker, all these other big events are going to grow to the level EVO is, and will the same thing happen? And it's like,
so that's the thing. That's the danger of starting anything, right? Is that once it starts to get bigger, and that's why gatekeeping I think is important, because if you don't want it to get to a certain size and a certain level of influence, which means that your consumers have a certain amount of control, right? Like once these things start to get a lot bigger, then they're not really owned by the people who started it anymore. They're kind of owned by the people who participate in it. Right. In some degree. Right. And so like the danger of that is that once you get everything, like once you get something that's a lot big and everybody's attracted to it and there's money getting flowed in it, then you're going to attract larger investors. Right. This is essentially that. Right. Sony is investing in this. And then you have a choice. Right. You can either decide to take the money and run, like they say, or you can stick with the grassroots or what you're doing and kind of keep it that way. I mean, I think a lot of people, they get really enthralled with, the idea of having and especially because there's a lot of controversy around EVO now because of what happened last year. I think that the OGs like walking away, or at least like sending, I don't know how much involvement there's going to be with like, I guess Mark Giulio is probably still involved or whatever, but like, I don't know, how much And so when there's all this controversy around something that, you know, you started, it's probably a safer bet to walk away.
Yeah.
You know, and I get that, but it is sort of it's kind of a harbinger of things to come, right? Like we talked about this on the episode where we watched the Vice documentary.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, it's, do you want to stay small, or do you want to stay in control, or do you want to like give in to, you know, the money and the mob?
Yeah, it's you know, I mean, I guess in a way we kind of have to become the esports. You know, as weird as that sounds, like it's like it seems like people start, like, so somebody starts something, it gets really big, and then eventually like someone comes with a lot of money to do that. It's like we're going to have to start like having our own sense of income to support these things and grow them past like how, you know, past anything we could ever really think of, without relying on like, oh, one day I'll get acquired by a big corporation.
Right.
We kind of just do it ourselves. I don't really know exactly, because it's kind of a complicated thing. It's like I don't know exactly know how we do that. I know, like, there's some people who kind of fund their own things with like outside sources of revenue, but it's like, you know, because it's kind of like I said before. It's like, are we, you know, do we limit ourselves to that?
Yeah.
Like, it's kind of hard. It's a really hard thing to you know, to have a solution to.
Well, when it comes to stuff like this, it's like I don't think a lot of people go into this expecting that they're going to get, you know, bought by like a major corporation. They just kind of go into it wanting to do something. Like, we're doing this podcast, we're going into it because we want to talk about stuff that we see, right? It's not like, oh, I'm trying to be on, I don't know, what's a big podcast network. I have no idea. I'm not trying to be on it like IGN. I'm not trying to get IGN to buy us. They probably wouldn't want to fuck with us.
They probably want to.
But you know what I mean? Like, like, I'm not really trying to do that. But again, like, you know, once you get to a certain level of influence, which EVO is, and then on top of that, you add controversy, it sort of was inevitable that they might change hands and try to like clean up the image, especially because we know that Sony loves censoring stuff.
Yeah.
So this is a reason why I personally think that EVO's dead now. Because, you know, Sony has kind of a history of bending to the woke mob. And there's no, especially since they moved their headquarters from Japan, or, well, I guess let me start over. It's not Sony headquarters. It's PlayStation headquarters is in California now. It's in San Jose, California.
Yeah.
I've been to that place. It's fucking awesome. They got like a store in there. It's super cool. But the fact that they're in California, and especially in the Bay Area, you know, there's a lot of ideologues there. And one of the things that happened, like, I think it was 2019 when like Me Too was popping off. Was that 2019?
Yeah, like 2020. Yeah, like I think maybe 2018.
Right.
Maybe 2018.
Okay. 2018, 2019, when that was happening. And then the Gamergate movement were a little earlier than that. Sony responded to that by censoring a lot of their games that depicted like sexual content. So like Senran Kagura, which we were talking about with Black Sage G on the last episode, that kind of stuff gets censored on Sony platforms. They don't get censored on like Nintendo platforms, right? Which to some degree, which is, you know, why a lot of people like Black Sage kind of rally against Sony. But it's not only is it kind of tampering with like an artist's vision, but it's also like putting through these games through like a lens of morality that not necessarily like everybody wants to follow. And I feel like this is going to happen with EVO now. Like that FGC code of conduct, that's going to be EVO. You know?
I mean, it could. Now more than, because I know we mentioned with Peter on one of our previous episodes that like people generally dislike the code of conduct. But the thing is, like, when you have people like Ultra David who have a lot of influence, and now you just acquired EVO, because he has a lot to do with EVO. Right. And now, like, you know, now that Sony's going to be pretty much owning this thing, you know, what if could it be that Ultra David becomes really close with the new owners of EVO, and like now this thing is now maybe not worldwide, but it's going to be at the biggest event of the year. Now you have this ridiculous list of things that we went over in our previous episodes. Like, could that be the future of EVO code of conduct? It's like, I don't know how it doesn't look too good right now.
Yeah. Well, the thing is too, is it's like, we know that Ultra David's a Wokey. We know that Sony is a Wokey. You put those two things together,
know what the outcome is,
and that's it, right? I mean, like, so I mean, what I'm worried about too now is like, you mentioned this when we were off, when we weren't recording, which was the whole Sony pushing for people to record conversations over PS5. So what happened there actually was there's this feature with PS5 now where if somebody says something that you don't like during voice chat or something, you can send the chat to Sony and then they can like mess with you. So they're already setting the precedent that they're okay with this idea of like people like some sort of weird like neighborhood watch, I guess, of the internet.
Yeah.
You know? And so now it's like people like us, like, okay, so now if I try to go to Evo under my name, Mr. Behavior, am I going to be on a fucking list?
Like, yeah. I mean, that could happen.
It's no, really this guy can't come to this tournament. Yeah. You know, we already know that that's what these people were starting to do. But like when you get more involved with like companies that have bigger, more money and more influence and have these same authoritarian ideals, I mean,
we know what the result is. Like,
right.
You pretty much have unified effort for an ideologue.
Exactly.
What happens?
Exactly. So I think that like that's sort of unfortunate. Also, just even if we weren't dealing with a company like Sony who is ultra woke, we do know that corporations like that are going to want to have a more cleaner image. I can't remember the name of the girl who was saying that in the Vice documentary, that like, you know, half of the FGC wants to, you know, stay grassroots and the other is, well, we're worldwide, we had to clean things up. That's the idea of corporations, right? It's like we want to sterilize this and make it appeal to as broad of an audience as possible, right? Sony is clearly going to want to do that. And I think that that's always a mistake with fighting games. Like that's a mistake in general when it comes to marketing, but with fighting games in particular. And I think Maximilian did a video on this where he talked about the idea of like fighting game companies trying to make their games more accessible through like easier controls or whatever. That was a mistake because it doesn't work.
Yeah, it doesn't work.
You have to be a certain type of person to want to play a fighting game and get good at it. And if you have to also have to be, you have to be that type of person, and then you have to be a different type of person or the same type of person with an elevated sense of self to want to go to a tournament like EVO. You know,
yeah, like the kinds of people who play team games are different kinds of people who play fighting games. They're very like their mindset, their approach towards the game and getting better is not even in the same, in the same realm. Like, because you have this added factor of it could be somebody else's fault. And that gets morphed into like, you know, I lost because of this guy. And then that, you know, like that doesn't really transfer to the FGC at all. What people do is what I see is like, I got some friends who've played, they really play shooters and they've tried Street Fighter. Mm-hmm. And what they do is what they normally would do by blaming other people, they'll blame on certain mechanics like this thing is cheap or like this thing's sometimes they find some other way to do this. And you even see this with like seasoned fighting game players who are usually not that good. They say the same thing. And a lot of these guys play other games. And it's the same kind of mentality. They're just finding some other thing besides themselves. It's like, you know, that seems to be a common thing. And it's like kind of like you said, like companies have, I guess, tried to appeal to those people by making the game easier. That doesn't work because those kinds of players, other kinds of players, they'll play the game for about a week and then go back to Fortnite or something.
Exactly. They're not really they're not going to have the sustained interest. So what you end up doing is you end up pandering to people who will, like you said, play the game for like a week and then drop it. These types of people that they're probably trying to reach by buying EVO or whatever will inevitably try to roll out marketing campaigns to. They're not going to go to EVO, man. Like, and it's just going to be like this thing where now it's a bunch of people who want to be ultra woke and have, you know, Daddy Sony enforce the ultra wokeness. You can't look at titties anymore.
Specifically cartoon titties.
I mean, like Sony really does not like, well, they don't like anime titties, I guess, but like something like The Last of Us was totally okay, right? Like that sex scene from The Last of Us 2, which I think is something that a lot of people point out in terms of hypocrisy with the company. But I mean, I actually saw a bunch of people were actually happy about this. I have a group of people. We're the Salt Dojo. Shout out Salt Dojo on PlayStation Network. That's my fighting game crew, and I got people in there that are excited about this, and I'm like,
what are they excited for?
I think it's the idea, like we were talking about, getting more people into fighting games, and like, I mean, because that's actually the first thing that usually comes to people's minds. So it has to, I mean, I would guess it's about that, especially with a company like Sony, but like that's the first thing that comes to people's minds. And what I seem to not really understand is why getting more people involved in something means it's better.
Yeah. It's like, well, I guess it means it grows the scene. I mean, the thing about growth is like, growth is not inherently, it's not always inherently a good thing.
Right.
Sometimes like it's kind of the same thing, kind of like with anything, right? It's like more money doesn't always mean a good thing, right?
Right.
Obviously, like more money from a company who doesn't think the same way you do is not really a good thing, right? So it's like
more money, more problems.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
pretty
clip
much
that into the edit.
Yeah, pretty much. I don't know. I think, you know what it is. I think it really, like, the source of it is the, like, a lot of people, especially in the woke crowd, they want to see the FGC become something like Fortnite. They want it to be that big. They want it to be one day beat like on that level where there's billions of people playing the game, and I don't think they understand it's like that is going to come with consequences. There's
right.
It doesn't come without it. So like the question is, is the reward, what's the risk reward? Is it worth like growing to that level at the risk of like maybe destroying it as a grassroots scene? Like I don't know. I mean, I think the problem is we're not really united as a community on this. Yeah. We do seem to have like two separate types of FGC, guys like us and woke crowd. That's what it seemed like, at least.
Well, that's the difference between the FGC and esports. But what we were saying about growth is correct. Not all growth is good. I mean, like, think about like a tumor growth, right? It could be cancerous. It could not. So people think about these things in a very one-sided way. They think more people playing the game equals automatically good. And yes, what you said is correct. It's going to come with consequences. It's going to come with things like more companies making games that are easier. And these are things that people in the FGC don't like, right? Guilty Gear Strive is a great example of this, actually, because Guilty Gear Strive is pared down. It's actually fun, though. It's a fun game right now, so far, from what I've played. It's a fun game. But you're inevitably going to get the really hardcores. This is like what happened with Street Fighter 5, right? When Street Fighter 5
pretty much same thing with Street Fighter 5, yeah.
It was like, well, this game is like too easy. This game, this game doesn't give me, it's like there's no footsies. Like that was all these complaints about Street Fighter 5. There's no strategy, right? It's all offensive. It's not defensive.
Right.
This isn't Street Fighter. Well, that's a consequence of Capcom wanting to get more people to play Street Fighter. Guess what? It didn't work. It didn't work. Street Fighter is still the biggest fighting game, and most people who come into the fighting game genre start with Street Fighter. But the reality is it didn't grow as much as we'd like to think.
Now they might make it seem that way by like, with like the bigger tournaments now and the bigger esports scene, it might like seem that it might even make more money than like previous fighting games. But the thing about it is like you still have the core community, like that hasn't really changed from previous games. And like I guess maybe the counter argument that people may have is just like, well, like, Fortnite is still a really hard game that millions of people play. It's just like you can't really compare team games to fighting games.
Yeah.
It's like I see this kind of often that like there's this constant comparison is like what games like Call of Duty and like Dota do that Street Fighter doesn't. I'm like, you really cannot compare them because fundamentally those games are made for group play,
right?
And like they're like there's really no comparison at all. I mean, like there's so many fundamentally, we could go on at all the fundamentally different things about those kinds of games, like what they appeal to, right? And like also I would even argue like one of the main reasons Street Fighter is so accessible is because of the marketing decisions that were made for this game and not Street Fighter 4. Like, for example, you can buy Street Fighter 5 Vanilla and play with the person who has Champion Edition. That was a really good marketing decision. Like my cousin bought the game and he has a really crappy laptop. One of his friends bought it because it was $6 and they could buy the regular version.
Yeah.
They don't have the full version. They don't have all the characters, but they're like, yo, I could play it. It's like $8. I don't need all these characters. I can still unlock them or fight money. And they got into the game. And half of them don't even play it right now. Half of them only play casually. So like they weren't really in it to like get really good like right away. It was just a really accessibly game from a marketing perspective. And like, and that in the crossplay. The crossplay really brought everybody from everywhere. Like the fact that any version and PS4 or PC could play together, that made it really accessible. That stuff is what gets people onto the game.
But that's not even something that Street Fighter did first.
Right.
Killer Instinct did that first. You know what I mean?
Yeah, sure.
And I do agree with you though that is actually a really good mod. I actually do really like the whole sort of like not free to play necessarily, but like, okay, so for Street Fighter 5, this is a little bit more complex because for Street Fighter 5, you can get like you're saying, you can get the vanilla version and then like unlock characters with fight money if you want, or like real money. With Killer Instinct, and like Dead or Alive does this too, where you could just get like a core fighter version. So like Killer Instinct, you get like the game with Jago or something like that. And then you can buy another character if you want and just have those two characters. I think that's a really good model for fighting games.
Too. Yeah.
Because most of the time, I have played a total of, I've been playing Street Fighter 5 since it came out, obviously. I played a total of 3 characters on that game. I played Guile in season 1 when he first came out. And then I played Sakura. Then I played E Honda. Now I'm trying to learn Cody, but that's 3. You know, and I didn't even really, because like when I first started playing Street Fighter 5, I didn't really like it. So until Guile came out, I wasn't really interested in actually playing the game.
Right.
So most people, most people who are serious about playing a fighting game, they're not gonna like play every character. They're gonna learn every character, but they're not really gonna play every character.
Yeah.
And so I think that model is really good because you can decide like, okay, well, maybe I want to try this character and just, you know, you don't have to like spend $60. You can spend like $5.
Yeah.
And then learn your character and then play online and learn matchups if you want, you know? So I think that's really good. But yeah, you're right. I think Street Fighter 5 did have a lot of good content marketing strategies around how the game was going to be accessed by new people. But most of those people, again, they played the game for like a week. They're not going to go to EVO. They're not going to a tournament. They're not interested in learning how to play the game to a competitive level. You know,
same thing with like with other games too. Like you don't see everybody going to COD tournaments.
Right.
It's really like a hardcore community of those games.
Right.
The ones who really want to be the best of the best. Like you're not going to change that.
Yeah.
That comes down to a person, what the person wants to do. You can only make it easier for the person to pick up the game. And you don't do that by changing the game. You do that by like what some of these games did, like make it cross-play, platform can play it, maybe even free to play, any version can play together, stuff like that.
Right.
That makes it easier. I mean,
like
Fortnite was one of the first big games to do this when every platform, phone, Switch, doesn't matter. You can play with your friends. Yeah. Right. So that got everybody to try.
Well, no, what the first, you're wrong. The first one, I'll correct you. The first one was Rocket League.
That's true.
Rocket League was the first one to do like,
and that got really big quickly.
Major crossplay. And then, that's you're exactly right though. That's what made these games a lot of people play these games, was the ability for them to play with anybody on any, like if Street Fighter 5 was on Xbox, was on fucking Switch, was on PC and PS4 and all crossplay, dude, more people would be playing the game. I think that you're right. I think that these are things that fighting game companies need to understand, is that all you need to do is make it available on more platforms and then allow crossplay. Like I think Mortal Kombat 11 is doing, they might be still in beta with it, but crossplay for Xbox and PS4. Yeah. And it works great. I've used it, you know?
Yeah. And I mean, because again, like Fortnite is one of the hardest games I've ever played. Yeah. One of the most popular. Difficulty is not really a factor. It's just a matter on the person. It's just, but who's going to try it? Yeah. That's what you really want to do. You want to get more people to try your game. And exactly. You'll have more people who stick with it on a percentage basis. Like the more people that try it, the more people that stick with it. It's just it's just a matter of getting people to get the game and press start and, you know, start it out. That's it.
Right. Exactly. And then another accessibility thing is like doing things like Guilty Gear Xrd has a great tutorial. That has the best tutorial I've ever played in a fighting game, because it's like, it really teaches you how to move within that space. Even if you played a fighting game before, playing that tutorial is 100% worth it. Street Fighter V has a decent tutorial as well, but I think that Guilty Gears is probably the best, hands down. So like tools like that are actually the way to give people more access to these games. And you know, I don't think that necessarily like trying to, I don't think that these tactics that they've been using so far. And since Sony is involved, I mean, Sony was involved with Street Fighter V, right? Sony funded Street Fighter V,
funded it, yeah.
And which is why it's exclusive to the PlayStation and in terms of consoles. So I can't help but think that their strategies might not be great. So then putting it and infusing that into EVO, you know, I mean, we already know that I think EVO is going to be online again. Or no, not again. Online for the first time because it didn't happen last year because it's supposed to be online and then all the nonsense happened.
Yeah.
So it's going to be online because COVID, I think.
That's what I'm reading here.
Is that why?
It's going to be different for each game. Like Street Fighter's going to, like how Street Fighter's ran and how like Guilty Gear ran going to be kind of different.
Yeah.
I don't know if you want to. I only partially read through it, but
well, I know that it's going to be a free to sign.
Yeah, it's a free entry.
To.
Reading here, yeah.
So are you gonna get in? Are you gonna do it?
I don't know. I mean,
if it's online and it's free.
The only thing about like why I would enter these kinds of tournaments is again like I'm kind of like a lot of the term, like for example, like NLBC, right? Like NLBC is like a local, so like that's like a thing I would do every week. But when it comes to like bigger tournaments, like especially when they're online, the only real incentive I would see is just like if I were to stream my point of view kind of thing. Yeah. But the thing about that is like usually when these tournaments happen, like everybody's watching that stream, everybody's watching that channel. So like I don't really see an incentive to like show my point of view when all the other people are playing on that channel anyway. So like I don't really see an incentive for me personally because like I don't really have a goal of winning these kind of tournaments. I really just want to do well my local. So like my local is really what I stick to, and like maybe some other online stuff like Stream Team Battle or stuff like that. But like I really just stick to local stuff for now. Because someone like this, I want to go to. EVO is something I go to every year,
exactly.
Like, I want to go to Vegas, and what I've noticed really in the last few years is like 2017 was kind of I think like prime years for EVO, like 2017 before, because like 2017 had like bar fights and like it was very like
bar fights was awesome.
Bar fights was sick in 2017. Like that's when like drama was still kind of a thing. You had like Punk playing people in the crowd. You had a money match with Smug and I think it was ISTD. Like you had a lot of like cool like special exhibition stuff happening there. And over the years, it's interesting. Like something like bar fights, it got a bit more. I think I would say a bit more esportsy. Like a lot more companies got involved. So like the year after, it wasn't just Street Fighter. It was like all these other games that that didn't really appeal to the crowd there, but because it was funded by these companies, like they have to showcase.
They had to show it. Yeah.
There's a lot more going on. It didn't really seem so focused anymore, so it kind of lost its appeal. And like a lot of the parties there are very like they're at like the esports arena, and it's like some kind of company involved with like pushing it or like sponsoring it. I don't know. It's kind of lost.
I honestly didn't like the parties that I went to.
No, I stopped going to them. I got to a point where I just go to Old Town Vegas and do my own thing with some friends. I don't even go to those at the time.
Yeah. See, I should have gone with you, man. I went with some folks that was like, I'm not gonna talk shit about people, but anyway.
Word to the wise for you viewers, you go to EVO, don't go to the gamer parties. It's like 95% dudes anyway who are like pretty weird. Yeah. It's like 5 married cosplayers. And like,
I went to one and I overheard this guy. He was trying to pick up this girl, and like literally this girl like dissed him because he didn't know what like a Street Fighter mechanic or something. Like I swear to God, I was like watching this happen. This guy's trying to talk to this girl, and somebody said, I can't remember what the mechanic was they were talking about, but some might have been like a DP or something like that. No idea. But this guy's a Tekken player, and he they were using
plays fighting games. You didn't know that game?
Well, so they were using like Street Fighter specific jargon for him, I guess. I have no idea. Okay. But he's like, I play Tekken. I don't know what this is. Da, da, da. And this girl was like literally like rolled her eyes at him and walked away. I thought that was the funniest fucking thing I'd ever seen in my entire life. He's like, I'm a Tekken player. Ah!
It's funny. My cousin has this thing he often says. He's like, bro, I love video games, but I hate gamers.
Yeah,
no, tell me stuff like that. It's like, bro, I don't really blame him.
bruh, like, yo, that's how I feel sometimes, man, honestly. But okay, so I mean, I don't know, man.
I don't think of the positives. Like, what are the positives of Sony acquiring?
Yeah,
that's
what I'm trying to think too.
I mean, there's more money, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you use the money for?
Smash is dead. Smash is gonna be gone, I think.
Yeah,
I
you're right. This is every fighting game gets affected by this. I just realized that. Yeah, not just Street Fighter.
Yeah. I think so. Wait, so it actually says on Nintendo Life. I'm looking at it. It says a Nintendo spokesperson provided the following statement to IGN, mentioning how the company would continue to assess EVO as it plans for future Smash Brothers tournament activity. And then it says Nintendo has enjoyed engaging with fans at past EVO tournaments and wish the show organizers the best with their new venture. We will continue to assess EVO and other opportunities as we plan for future online and offline. So okay, I don't think that it's because of Sony. I think it's because online. Smash is a terrible game to play online.
Yes.
You don't.
I think it's the worst one.
Tournament. Yeah.
I think it's the worst. Like the input netcode on that. I mean, like there's other games like Tekken and Mortal Kombat do it way better than Smash. I don't know what they got going on.
Street Fighter 5 does it better than Smash.
Yeah, I mean, I'm saying like with an input delay specifically, right? Like Tekken and Mortal Kombat have input delay netcode, but they do it far better than I don't know what they did with Smash. They didn't have any care in the world for that. It's a real shame. It's a fun game. It's like unplayable.
Yeah, I mean, it might be good though if we get like some of like we've been talking about the Smash community. You know, I think that they need to kind of figure their shit out a little bit. So
yeah, because theirs is a really special. They have a lot of like a lot of problems that are particular to that one, mainly because there's so many kids.
Right, exactly.
So like because there's kids in there, you have to treat it very differently. It's like
right,
you know, you have to have rules. Like you got to have a guardian around. Like you got to like Street Fighter. A lot of us are like in their late 20s and 30s, maybe 40s and 50s.
Well, that's because Street Fighter's an older game, and most of these games are. Yeah. Well, okay, you could argue that Smash is old too because Smash is like Melee is like 20 years old, right? But Street Fighter's like Legacy, King of Fighters Legacy, Samurai Showdown, like all of these games were like. They came out when we were babies, like we were kids.
Also, the arcade scene, right? Smash doesn't really have an arcade scene,
exactly. The arcade scene definitely that's probably the split, right? It's like the arcade, the people who like were old enough to have the arcade scene, like you and I, we didn't really do that much, but we're old enough to remember it.
Yeah, like you know what I mean? I wasn't as involved as like. You know, the scene at the time.
Right.
I was more casually into it, but I remember it and the kind of atmosphere it was.
Right, exactly.
I just wasn't around it that often. But,
right, exactly.
Whereas a lot of the older heads, that was what they grew up with.
Right.
And so they're seeing it fade away into this whole other thing right now. I guess that's really the divide.
Right. But with Smash, it's like you don't have like those kids don't have that experience because Smash was never an arcade game. Smash has always been a home console game. Yeah. You know? I actually don't even know if there is an arcade version of Smash. I don't think there is. I doubt it. Yeah. It would be cool to kind of see
the community like made it into a competitive fighting game.
Right.
It wasn't really meant like produced as a competitive fighting game.
Right.
It was kind of turned into one.
Right. I always tell people that Smash is not a fighting game. It's a party game that people play as a fighting game.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's a pretty. There's a lot of Smash players who even agree with that too.
Yeah.
Because like have a problem with that.
Well, because of how much do you have to do in order to get the game? Like you have to change so many settings in order to get the game to play.
Yeah.
The way that they do it at tournaments. Yeah. Right. And these are things that like when I was playing Melee a lot back, 20 years ago, whatever it came out. When I was playing that game, you'd have to change the settings. Okay, stocks, change it from time to stock, change it from 4-player to 2-player. You know what I mean? Right. Like, there's a bunch of stuff that you have to do in order to get it into competitive mode, and that's still the same thing with Smash Brothers. Like, if you go into Smash Brothers Ultimate and you do, which genius user interface design by Masahiro Sakurai, by the way. And most Smash Brothers games, I don't know if you notice this, but if you press A. If you keep pressing A, you'll get into the main Smash mode. You don't have to look at the menu at all. So if you open your Smash, that's UI design. It's like great. It's great because it'll just get you straight into the game without any choices.
Yeah.
If you go into the game that way for the first time you boot it up, it's not going to be set up to play as a fighting game. It's going to be set up on the time match. It's going to be set up, you know, with points, all that kind of stuff, right? So, and even after you do all the things that people do, it's still not a traditional fighting game because you don't have stamina. You do have that option in Smash, though, if you want to play it that way. But Smash is a party game because it has so many different options, so many different people play it so many different ways that it can't be classified just as a fighting game. Because fighting games are very, very narrow in that sense, in my opinion.
Everything's curtailed for a competitive environment in like Street Fighter or Tekken.
Right.
Everything's curtailed for like a bunch of people to have fun together in Smash.
Exactly. So, but we know. So the lineup of games we know. We know that Smash Brothers. It doesn't look like Smash Brothers is going to be there this year. We know that we're going to have Tekken. We know we're going to have Street Fighter. We know we're going to have Mortal Kombat, and we're going to have Guilty Gear Strive. Which doesn't Guilty Gear Strive come out like 2 weeks before EVO?
Yeah, that's gonna be interesting.
I might just sign up for that one then, because they're gonna have
Everyone's
a bunch of
new,
scrubs. Yeah. Why not? Because I'm gonna get it day one, but that seems weird. I saw that, I was like, Guilty Gear Strive, like that's not even gonna have any. Like last year, or not last year, 2019 when I went, you weren't even allowed to play Shang Tsung because he had come out like 2 weeks earlier for Mortal Kombat. So you're gonna put a whole damn game in there that comes out to you? Come on, man. Or no, maybe that wasn't EVO. Maybe that was a local. Yeah, it wasn't EVO. It wasn't EVO because I definitely get. I'll correct myself there because I got beat up by a Shang Tsung on a casual match. But man, I did terribly. I did okay. I did okay in Soul Calibur. I knocked one guy out in Soul Calibur and I knocked 2 people out in Smash. But I was like,
2019.
2019, yeah. In 2018, I went and I didn't compete. I just like watched.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I got into day 2 on pools on Street Fighter, and I played. I got bodied by Nemo on stage in front of like 25,000 people. That was pretty fun. Yeah, there's a video somewhere of it. Yeah,
nice, dude.
And I think the second guy who beat me was Kusanagi. He's like the best soccer in Mexico or something like that.
Oh wow!
Like basically the best soccer outside of the U.S. besides Nauman, of course. But like, yeah, it was really interesting how we met in like pools. It was really weird. Like it's funny. Even you still find it's the same people. Like you still end up playing the same freaking people.
But see, that's the thing well, I think that's what happens when you just get to like a certain like a skill level, right? It's like I like when I'm online playing Street Fighter because I'm like in gold, I always like I always fight the same people mostly. But that happens was like you also get to see the same people when you go to like events like that because you're gonna find people that are like that serious. Like, you know, whenever I went to NorCal regionals, I would always like run into the same people, local, the same thing, but I don't know, man. I think we talked about this. Like ultimately, I don't think that it's a good, I personally don't think it's going to be a good thing, but I think that this is going to open up an opportunity or like open people's eyes to the opportunities to create new stuff. Like you guys are doing with the stream teams, we got Classic Fighting Gamer doing his stuff every week. I think that we really do need to kind of go, if we want to go back to grassroots, we just got to do it. We just got to do it.
That's it.
And not worry about this stuff, because the esports people, they're gonna do their esports, they're gonna get their Sonys, they're gonna do their thing, they're gonna be happy about it. And if we're not happy about it, then at the end of the day, then let's just do our own thing.
That's it.
And
hope, and the at least a prediction is that people eventually the esports crowd just gets fed up. They're just like, this has gotten so out of control, and then they're just like, hey, we're over here.
Well, I think we'll get like the people who start recognizing those things a lot like there's going to be folks that are going to love it because they want the clout, and like we talked about this, they want the clout, they want the fame, they want to be on TV, they want to do all this stuff. There's going to be those folks that don't give a crap about that only care about fighting games, and once they realize that like when you go to one side it becomes more sterile and more about the bucks and more about the fame, they'll figure it out.
I mean their integrity will be tested,
right? Facts.
If they really don't care, then they'll just keep on with making money and Twitter followers, whatever. And if they have integrity and they're just like, I don't like what I'm seeing here, then this is where like the new FGC 2.0. As Classic Guy, I think he told us about that.
You could say FGC 2.0 or like, I don't know, I wouldn't want to say anti-FGC, but like a mirror image.
Not like the
clone.
right-wing FGC. I don't even know what to call it. It's not even that. It's more just like people who are just annoyed.
Yeah, well, it's like people from all sorts of political factions who are just annoyed with how far certain things have gone, and also just like they don't really want to like be involved in like this major globalization effort of the you know what I mean, because it just becomes sterile. You know, it's like, nah, I just kind of want to kick it and like play some fighting games and like, you know, try to get good at one. But I don't really feel like being on TV. I don't really feel like being in front of like, you know,
40,000 people.
Giant, like come on, man. Like let's just like play some games and like, you know, it's a double-edged sword though, because once you start like, especially, you know, we're doing this on the internet and all this kind of stuff. Once you start doing that, then you're inevitably going to attract more eyes because you're just in the pub, you're visible.
Yep, pretty much.
So I mean, that's where gatekeeping comes in, and you know, maybe we'll talk about that another time, but
yeah,
that's essentially where gatekeeping is going to have to come in. You know what I mean? Like, so anyways,
I don't like that word, but
yeah, I know. Well, you know, some people don't, but it's important, I think, in order to like there's a balance. There's a balance, and if you don't want to tip too, like right now, the FGC is tipping too far one direction. If you don't want to tip too far in any direction, you do have to gatekeep. It's just inevitable. Yeah. But anyway, I think that's pretty much it. Do you have any other thoughts on this?
Time will tell. I want to be wrong, right?
That's wise.
Like, we would love to be wrong, because if we're wrong, we'll just play games.
Right? Yeah. I hope we're wrong.
Yeah. I hope Sony doesn't do the things that we think that they will, but they probably will, let's be honest.
All right, well, in that case, Silos, let them know where they can find you on the interwebs.
You can find me on Twitch and YouTube at Silos.
All right, and you can find me at twitch.tv/MrBehavior and youtube.com/LOTCSTAKES. And also, couple of things before we sign off. This is episode 10 of the show, you guys. So everybody who's been listening, thank you so much. Yes, 10 episodes is you know, it doesn't seem like a lot, but it actually is. This takes a lot of work. And the fact that we're still doing this is actually really big. So I appreciate you guys, everybody who's like watching and supporting and all that kind of stuff.
Almost 200 subs. Let's get it.
Yeah, fantastic. So we're gonna hopefully keep building it up. And then the other thing that I was gonna say was, I forget. Fuck. God damn it. Never mind. I'm not gonna say anything else. That's been the Anti-Oki Podcast, and I'll see you guys on the next episode.
They say you must defeat Shenlong to stand a chance, but homie, you're dead wrong. Just take a glance. Attack me if you dare, son. I will crush you. I'll crack your back. You should be scared, son. I'll bust you. Just go home and be a family man. If not, I'm gonna have to destroy your anatomy, man. It's natural for someone like me to be the world's strongest, because I'm on this. Just being honest. I astonish. My sonic boom flash kicks are right here waiting for you. Wanna get your ass kicked for your plastic. Your kung fu is weak and mine is chic and spastic. Fantastic. You're not a warrior, you're just a beginner. Get up, wimp, and bask in the glory of a winner. My strength is much greater than yours. I'm a street fighting legend, the creator of wars. No use debating the score. I've waited patiently for someone to pound through the ground. I'll smash your face in the floor. Get lost, dog. I'm the boss. You can't compare with my powers. I play this game for the fame. They claim the hundreds of hours.
Listen, it's a tournament edition. Challenging me is just like pissing in the wind. Doing KO since I was one day old. Keep on wishing, man, cause no, you'll never win. Yo, listen, it's a tournament edition. Challenging me is just like pissing in the wind. Doing KO since I was one day old. Keep on wishing, man, cause no, you'll never win. No need to worry, a state of euphoria. I won the tourney twice, now I am the world warrior. Using my kung fu to destroy you. Flurry of kicks which only your performer do. Ken's a competitor, write you out like an editor. Stay ahead of the pack, flame attack like a predator. I ain't stretching the truth, my dull Sims the tightest. I'll leave you burnt to a crisp with elephantitis. Need to charge up to bite, scrap attack with Blanca. Yo, I'm warming ya. Wanna try and win again? Well, after this you go one time. Every street fight is better the second time around. I've learned how to throw down. I'm KO bound. Do I punch light or medium? No, I punch hard because I'm pretty sure I just kicked a boo up a car. Yo, you're looking like vomit. I busted suplex atomic. I fill the room with the boom that sounds supersonic. Tiger flame so feisty, uppercut so nicely. Sagat will brew you up a batch of Mai Tai iced tea. Listen, listen, it's a tournament edition. Challenging me, it's just like pissing in the wind. Doing KO since I was 1 day old. Keep on wishing, man, cause no, you'll never win. Yo, listen, listen, it's a tournament edition. Challenging me, it's just like pissing in the wind. Doing KO since I was 1 day old. Keep on wishing, man, cause no, you'll never